My wife and I lived a great life together, but one day I had a doubt about her because she was showing some sort of tendency towards cheating on me. A New Year celebration took place when she attended the party with her friends. She had friends who were both girls and boys. She had my full confidence. When it came to me, I gave her a free hand. On the other hand, the night she came back home, she looked like a mess. I had a feeling that something was up. I asked her about it, but she denied it and said nothing had happened. I wasn't convinced. I cannot forget that night. I still cannot let go of it. She wasn't able to even talk when I saw her for the first time that night. It took me a few moments to get her to the bed and she fell asleep. I didn't change her clothes either. I decided to wait and see before I do anything. But I knew something was wrong and I've been trying to get to the bottom of it ever since. I've been keeping an eye on her. As soon as she got up in the morning, I asked her many times what happened, but she never answered my questions. Instead, she left the house in an emergency right after she got up. I thought I should approach her and I started following her. When I found she had reached one of her friend's apartments, the name of the owner was Max. I thought I should wait outside of the apartment for a while before approaching her. I was very concerned about her. I heard a sort of scream. I tried to figure out what was going on. There was a few things she was yelling at him about last night that she said that she was the only one who was entitled to sleep with him. The question is why he allowed that girl to have such intimate relations with him. He explained that he was just having fun time and he was trying to convince her to forget about what had happened. As I listened to him, I felt like my heart had been ripped from my body. She was not convinced and kept on yelling at him. He was getting frustrated and tried to defend himself. I felt the ground slip out of my feet. I felt a shiver of pain in my body. I tried to be calm myself, but I was helpless, in a state of shock and disbelief, and all I could do was to try to take action to protect my wife from this situation. I broke the door and got in with anger. I looked at my wife's face and that boy's face, and they were stunned to see me. I just looked into his eyes and left. I was so overwhelmed with emotions that I felt powerless to control my own actions. The part of me that wanted to leave her was completely convinced that I would do so. However, the other part of me was trying to convince that she cannot do this nasty act at any price. When I rushed back home, I poured a glass of alcohol and began to drink it as I sat on the floor in the corner of the room. About 30 minutes, she was arrived. She set herself up in my shoes and began to snub me. Immediately after this incident, she apologized for the mistake she had made. She said it was just a mistake that she had made because she was drunk and they took advantage of her. My choice that day was to just kick her and go to my room. It was a hellish day for me. After spending 15 hours in my room, I finally decided that I would forgive her because at that time I was so in love with her and I was very emotional. One of the reasons why I forgive her was that she promised me that she would never attempt this again. We spent 2 weeks together, but things didn't seem to be working out. It was a great deal of trauma for me, so I had to leave the city with her because I could not tolerate being in that place because I was getting nasty flashbacks. I was doing my best to forget everything, but it was a big trauma for me. That flashback I was experiencing was so vivid and overwhelming that I could not stay in the same place. I felt like I had to get away from the city because it was the source of trauma and I needed to start fresh and heal. Nevertheless, my company helped me a lot. They gave me a transfer to Montreal, in their headquarters. Now that we moved to Montreal, I started to feel better, and after several months I was able to forget about everything else. The new environment, the new people, the different cultures, it was an incredible experience that allowed me to start over and find a new purpose in life. I am now more confident and have a new outlook on life. The new ideas and the overall change of scenery took my mind off of my previous worries and allowed me to focus on something new, helping me to eventually move on from my previous struggles. It took me a few more weeks to adjust to the new office. It was also because my boss was a colleague of mine 3 years ago, so he helped me a lot. In fact, he was very involved in my career path. We started our journey together, but due to his hard work and luck, he managed to get promotions one by one and now he is the boss. Working with a boss that I already had a relationship with made the transition into the new office easier. My boss was familiar with my capabilities and was able to give me the guidance I needed to get comfortable in new environment. He also understood my career goals and was able to provide me with the necessary advice and sources to advance in my career. I invited him to my house for dinner because he was also a casual friend of my wife, purely due to me. The moment he came home, my wife and he were shocked to see one another. It was an awkward moment. I had no idea what had happened to them before they met. It was while having dinner that I felt my boss was very introvert with me in front of my wife. I recall him as being quiet, funny, and jolly to me and my wife quite a few years ago. I have no idea what happened to him, but he left after dinner after having dinner. I am not sure what exactly happened to him. I had a feeling that something had changed between us, but I did not want to ask. After my boss left, I asked my wife what happened between them, but she just shook her head and said nothing. The next thing that happened was when my wife was laying on bed with me, and as we were about to go to sleep, she asked me why I had not told her about my boss. I told her that I was embarrassed about the situation and did not want to bring it up. She said that she understood. In fact, she was also your friend, so I thought it would be a good surprise. I told her I don't know, and I thought that would be a great surprise for you. Is that correct? She said, yes, that's true. Then she asked me how he became boss, and you were still a simple employee. It was my belief that he had been a hard worker from the start, and he deserved that. She asked me, why didn't you deserve it too? I said he wasn't very good, and I laughed and went to sleep. In the morning, she got ready and said she would go with me to the office. I asked her why. In addition to passing the time, she said she had a beautician appointment at my office near my office as well. She got ready for the first time. She was in my office in the last 4 years. However, when we got to my office, my boss was also coming in the building. He was talking on the phone when we met him. She was clearly trying to make a good impression on my boss as well as take advantage of the opportunity to get her beauty treatment done without taking too much time away from work. I met him at a place where he was talking on the phone. After my wife saw me, I took the elevator up to my floor. I'm sure it took me 5 or 8 minutes to get to my floor, depending on how busy the elevator was. When I reached my office, I was able to see from my window downward. There was still the car of my wife in the parking lot. That seemed strange to me. I rang her. I thought it may have been her car tires flat. I called her, but she didn't pick up. My next step was to go to where she was talking with my boss. I walked near them. As soon as she changed her tone, I asked her what was up. She replied that she was just talking to your boss and trying to figure out how he got to where he is now, and both of them started laughing. I replied that I am also working hard and I'll reach that same position in the future. She stared at me sarcastically and then she greeted my boss and left. The way she behaved was extremely strange to me. My boss and I reached our floor talking about our upcoming projects while we were in the office. I remember that in the end of discussion he gave me a piece of advice. He said that always try to make your wife happy. I don't remember when I asked him for advice. Anyway, after that day, my wife's attitude towards me changed. According to her, she also got a job in a nearby telecom company, a well-paying one. So she became more and more focused in her work and eventually came home late at night. As soon as she told me that the company she was working for was paying her 4 times more salary than me, her body language changed. I don't know how to handle this situation. She stopped giving me time, and she went to the pub every night to party. I once told her about her unusual routes, but she just gave me a shit and said she didn't need anything from me. It was Sunday when she got into her bikinis and went to the beach. She just said she was going to the beach to enjoy herself. I asked if she wanted me to join her on this excursion. In spite of this, she said she had plans with her colleagues. I was wondering why she was prioritizing her colleagues everywhere. I thought of her cheating came to my mind, but then I thought if she had been cheating on me, then she would not hide anything from me because she would have been able to sense it and hide it as well. The last time I found her cheating on me was when I was packing up her clothing one Sunday and I found a packet of condoms in her pocket. I got the feeling that she was cheating on me again. The good news is that I was prepared to do what she deserves this time around. My attention was to follow her now and catch her red-handed as soon as possible. Due to the fact that I did not want to get emotional this time and had the memory of her infidelity in front of me, I hired a private investigator to get evidence against her. He started working on her case, and just after 3 days, she was getting a new car. I was stunned by what she was receiving. In my mind, I realized that she was receiving all of these things from her lover, and within just 2 days, I was able to obtain a video of her with a guy in bed that had been sent to me by the investigator. The evening that she arrived, I smashed divorce papers on her face and told her to leave the house. I was strong enough to face everything that came her way this time. She left immediately after. I stayed strong and reflected on the situation. I realized that I had to move on with my life without her. I was determined to take control of my life and to make the best of the situation. It was so hard for me to face 2 cheatings by her in such a short period of time, but I made the decision that I would not cry anymore, this time because I would stop crying. As it turned out, it did work. I had a good job for 1 month, and after a few months my boss decided that we should have a party at the office due to his wedding. Everyone was invited. In fact, he had personally invited everyone except for me. However, I did not notice that, and that one of my colleagues had a new friend encouraged me to attend the party. As I was the one who supported me at that time, I went with him. As I entered, my mind was blown. I saw my ex-wife standing right next to my boss. I was utterly amazed. It was then that I asked a woman there about his wife. She pointed out with my ex-wife. I went close to her with an astonishing look. She grabbed my boss's arm tightly. My boss, who had been an old friend, also changed his attitude at this point. I asked him in a low voice, "Why did not you say anything?" He said we would discuss it later. Right now, here we are guests. I asked him again why he had not told me. He gently explained that she wanted to keep that secret, and I left after listening to his words. I did not know what to say. It appeared that my wife and my boss had a past. He seemed uncomfortable when they saw each other and tried to avoid any conversation between them on that dinner night. His behavior around us was a far cry from what it had been in the past. From his reaction, I could tell that the relationship between my wife and him had soured, and that is why he felt so uncomfortable and eventually left after dinner. Suddenly everything became clear to me and I was able to understand everything. As a result, I could not go to the work next day. However, he left me an audio message saying she wanted to surprise me with everything. He said he wanted to tell me everything, but he couldn't due to her love. This is life, he said, and he wished me that I wouldn't be able to find the perfect match for me soon. During the first week after this, I was still in shock and did not go to work. At this point, I thought about quitting this job because I did not like working under him. However, I decided to remain there after I thought about it from a practical perspective instead. Upon returning to the office after 1 week, I found that my boss was on a honeymoon with his wife. I thought a gift would be a nice way for me to help her out by sending him a present. Since I was sure he was unaware of her nasty acts, I immediately called him and asked him if he knew about her. He just said he loved her. I asked if he was sure about her love. He was sure that she had only loved him for many months, and that is why he was so sure about it. After stating that I had sent you a video, I would like you to watch it and then let me know what you think. The video was shot just 1 month ago. After watching the video, he became enraged in anger, and I'm sure he started fighting with her because she was with him for money. A week later, he came to me. He thanked me for letting him know about the truth. He was certain that her love for him was not genuine because the video showed her with another man just 1 month prior. He felt betrayed and was so upset that he confronted her and just left her. She denied everything and claimed that she was still in love with him. He didn't believe her and decided to divorce with her. There are still times when I cannot believe I spent 4 hours with such a bitch. But day by day, I'm doing better in my practical life. I try to stay positive and focus on the future. I am grateful to have realized the truth before it was too late. I'm learning to trust my gut and be more aware of red flags.